You know how it is. You don't have food with you, life gets busy, so you wait until your next meal, which is 6 hours after your last one, and you feel like trash. You can't think straight, you're hangry, you're dragging, and now you find yourself dragging yourself to the nearest vending machine. We can do better with smart snacking. In today's episode, I'm going to share with you the important role snacking plays in a well-rounded sports nutrition plan for female athletes. I'm also going to give you lots of snack ideas that are quick, easy, and portable as well. There are so many myths surrounding snacking, and so many people think snacking is chowing down on chips and ice cream, but I'm here to tell you it's a necessary component of your sports nutrition plan that will boost your health, performance, energy levels, and help build and maintain muscle. In fact, a well-balanced diet for a female athlete can improve performance by as much as 20%. So grab a pen and paper because you're going to want to write these down. Let's get into it. Do you wish you could look like you train as much as you do? Are you sick of scouring the internet for sports nutrition tips only to find information tailored to men? Do you wish there was a simple solution to fueling your body for your activity level? Are you ready to find freedom with food? It is possible to have balance between fueling your body for your sport and for enjoyment, and it's not as complicated as you may think. Can we say hello, food freedom? There's a way to have it all and eat your cake too, and I'm going to show you how. Hey, I'm Kristen, a former multi-sport athlete, a sports dietitian, personal trainer, and Jesus lover. In this podcast, you will find practical, sustainable fueling tips for female athletes that will set you free from diet culture, an ever-changing set of nutrition rules, underfueling, and underperforming. You'll learn how to put together a fueling plan that works for you, that doesn't require all the rules, tracking every morsel of food you consume, letting food consume your every thought, with Jesus at the center of it all. If you're ready to find a sustainable nutrition plan that works for you with your active lifestyle and is tailored to your unique physiology, break free from diet culture, and finally feel comfortable in your own skin, this podcast is for you. Whip up that smoothie, lace up your shoes, and let's jump in. Hey friends, it's Kristen here, sports dietitian, certified personal trainer, and founder of Elite Nutrition Performance. And I am so excited to share with you today. We're going to be talking about smart snacking for female athletes. And this is a really important topic. I think a lot of people in general think that snacking is not really a good thing. They think of snacking as eating chips and cookies and candy and just things that are not really going to be nourishing to your body. But snacking is really, really important. In fact, a well-balanced diet can improve your performance by as much as 20%. And snacking is a key component of that. So if you are not eating properly, that can really start to affect your performance. It can lead to injuries. It can lead to you having chronic inflammation in your body. Just imagine something nagging, like having shin splints that won't go away. And while nutrition isn't going to be the end-all be-all for that, it certainly does play a role in that. In fact, some studies show that up to 4% of female athletes may experience energy deficiencies due to inadequate fueling. So, like I said, snacking is a part of a well-rounded fueling plan or sports nutrition plan for any athlete, especially female athletes. So, we're going to dive in that today. And basically, we're going to walk through, what is going to be a good example of a well-balanced snack and how you can incorporate them into your day-to-day routine. So let's first talk about key nutrients, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So let's talk about carbohydrates first. Well, you have three macronutrients: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So carbohydrates is your body's primary energy source, and that is going to be the first thing that your body's going to go to get energy. So think of when you're going to work out, or even if you are studying or you're working, that is what your brain's going to run off of. And of course, your muscles are going to use as an energy source. So you need carbohydrates in your body. Carbohydrates are not a bad thing. Secondly is fat. Fat is a secondary energy source, so secondary to fats. So fat is going to be a long-term energy source, and it's going to stay with you longer, and it's going to give you energy over the long haul. So just think of a time when maybe you ate just an apple and you were starving. 30 minutes later, it gets burned off pretty quickly. Carbohydrates do, which is why you need a lot of them. And then imagine a time when maybe you ate a greasy hamburger and fries and you were full for hours. That's because fat takes longer to digest and it stays with you for longer. Now, protein, on the other hand, is a macronutrient, and it's a very important macronutrient, but it's not really an energy source. We're only getting 2% of our energy needs from protein on a day-to-day basis. So protein is used more so for building muscle, also maintaining our bodies. We're constantly in a catabolic state, which means we're being broken down all the time. So that can be your skin, your hair, your nails, your cells, your muscles, your organs, all those things. And we need protein to put back into our bodies to counteract that breakdown. Now, when you are trying to figure out your calorie needs, I know a lot of people ask about this. This is something that's very individualized, and the same thing with your macronutrient needs, exactly how much you need. It really depends on a lot of different factors like your age, your weight, your height, your gender, what your sport is, how much you're training, all those types of things. So my best recommendation would be to consult a sports dietitian like myself for those specifics. Because like I said, it's very much independent to person, not the same. So we're going to talk about timing snacks. So the very first thing I want you to think about is when you are timing your snacks throughout the day, you want to make sure that you are eating every 2 to 4 hours over the course of the day. 4 hours is when your blood sugar levels really start to dip down. And then that's when you start to get energy crashes, you start to get headaches, you feel really foggy, you can't really think straight, you start to feel sluggish, tired, you get that stomach rumbling because it's your stomach growling, all those types of things. And we don't really want to get to that point where you're starting to feel a lot of those physical symptoms. We really want to be proactive and make sure that you are eating before you get to that point. So having a little bit of a schedule, a flexible schedule, is really going to be what's helpful here. So let's think about when you have a meal, when you first wake up. Ideally, you would eat within an hour of waking up, and then from there, you're going to count off every 2 to 4 hours. I'm giving you a range here because if you are more active or maybe you have some weight to gain, you're going to eat more on the 2-hour side. If you are not as active or maybe you're even trying to lose some weight, you can push it out to 4 hours. So there's a little bit of a range there that you can play around with. Now, when you're eating breakfast, let's just say you ate breakfast at 8 o'clock, you're going to then plan to eat a snack by 10 to 12 or eat again by 10 to 12. Again, just depending on what your goals are and where you stand with everything. A good rule of thumb is to really just take where your meals are and divide it in half, and that's when you're going to have your snack. So if you eat breakfast at 8 and then you're going to have lunch at 12, well then by 10 o'clock you could just have a small snack and that's completely fine. And same thing with maybe you're eating lunch at 12 and then you're not eating dinner again until 6 o'clock. Well, that's a larger gap, so you're going to have a larger snack in the middle of the afternoon at around 3 o'clock. You get the idea. So we're not going to deep dive into pre and post-workout fueling, but I'll just touch on it briefly because that is a form of snacking. So when you are going to have a pre-workout snack, you really want to make sure that you're having both carbohydrates and protein. So carbohydrates would be roughly about 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates. To put that in perspective, one slice of bread is 15 grams. So if you're going to have a snack of 30 grams of carbohydrates and you want somewhere in the neighborhood of like 10 to 20 grams of protein and not a whole lot of fat, you could really just have a turkey sandwich in there. 2 slices of bread with maybe a couple slices of turkey and a slice of cheese, and there you go. That is a pre-workout snack. And you may be thinking, well, that's not a snack. That's actually a meal. But it's actually more of a snack because it's on the smaller side. So we're really looking at the amount of food that you're eating. So if you are going to have a post-workout snack, you want more carbohydrates and more protein, and again, minimal fat. This is going back to that greasy burger example. If you have a lot of fat, it's going to slow down the digestion of your food, and that's actually going to slow down the energy release. And so what winds up happening is you're not getting as much energy to your working muscles if you're having a high-fat meal before or after a training session, and you want as much food, as much energy out of your food before and after a training session to help give you energy before and help you to recover after a training session. So that'll, again, be a video for another time, but I just wanted to briefly touch on it. if we're talking about just general snacking now, like I said, many people are viewing this as a bad thing, but it's really a necessary part of a well-balanced sports nutrition plan, especially for females. Let's talk about what that looks like. So as far as the snack goes, you can honestly make it a mini meal. You could make it the same size as your meal if you wanted to, just depending on how far in between your meals that meal is. What I mean by that is like you are, let's say you're going to have 5 meals over the course of the day. Instead of having 3 large meals and 2 smaller snacks, you wanted to have them all the same size. So that would make your meals a little bit smaller and your snacks the same size as your meals, and that's completely fine. Some people prefer to have larger meals and smaller snacks. Personally, I am not really much of like a snacker. Like I don't really like to have small snacks. I want to have the same size food as I would have for a meal. And that's just me. That's just what works for me. So I have all about the same size, and that's okay. But for other people, you might like having larger meals and smaller snacks. That is totally up to you. But what you do need in there is you need carbohydrates, and that can be in the form of grains, that could be fruits, and that can also be some vegetables. So starchy vegetables would contain more carbohydrates than, your more like your green type vegetables. You also need protein. So think of protein. You need roughly, I'm just going to say about 20 grams of protein, and that's going to differ per person, but just as a general rule. And then you need some fat in there. Some examples that you could have as snacks throughout the day, not necessarily around a training session, but just throughout the day, would be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with a glass of milk. You can have Greek yogurt with some berries and some granola on top. You can make a little pinwheel roll up with a wrap, not a low carb wrap, a regular wrap. It could be whole wheat. That would be preferred if it's not around a training session, with some deli meat and some cheese. Maybe some hummus and some cucumber or lettuce. Roll that up and slice it into little pinwheels or like sushi rolls. Honestly, you could do sushi. Sushi is a great snack that has all the components that you need in one neat little roll. You can always do fruit with some nut butter and a Greek yogurt or a glass of milk with that. You can make your own smoothie. So a smoothie would be, maybe some Greek yogurt, some milk, some fruit, some vegetables, some flax seeds or some peanut butter. You throw it on in there and mix it up. Now you may be thinking, okay, that's great, but I don't really have time to make those things. And that's perfectly fine. There are lots of different prepackaged options that you could use, like an RX bar would be a good option. You can also do a Cliff Builder bar. That is probably one of the most nutritionally balanced protein bars I've seen on the market. That does have sugar, has real sugar in it. Which is, in my opinion, preferred to artificial sweeteners. If you're watching your sugar intake, you can just cut it from other parts of your day. If it's going to be around a training session, then you actually want some of that sugar to help give you a little bit of an extra boost. Another option would be you could get those Uncrustable peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. You could just go ahead and have one of those. You also can get those powerful oats, or I think Kodiak brand also makes this, the high protein oatmeal cups. There's also Mighty Muffins. You just add some water and you throw it in a microwave. Any of those options would work. Sometimes I'll just make like a quinoa salad with some chicken and some vegetables in there, and I'll eat it cold. I'll bring that with me. Or string cheese is another portable option. Have that with some fruit, maybe a little bit of peanut butter with your fruit. So those are a ton of different options that I just gave you for snacking. Some are portable, some are not, and some you can just easily make them very, very quickly. But the fact of the matter is you need to have some snacks throughout the day. Ideally, I would plan to have 1 to 2, maybe even 3 snacks. And that really just depends on how active you are and how much you're training. If you are highly active, you're training a couple hours each day, then you really probably need to have 3 snacks a day. If you're somewhere on the lower end, maybe you're just doing a 30-minute workout each day, probably just 1 snack is sufficient. And if you're somewhere in the middle, then I would aim for 2 snacks per day. But this is where intuitive eating comes in, and you really want to pay attention to your body. If you're just having 1 snack a day and you find, I'm really kind of hungry, then okay, you need to either eat more at your meals or you need to have another snack. Or if you find that, okay, I'm too full, well, then you can cut it back some. So that's where being in tune with your body it comes in, and, that intuitive eating piece. So, like I said, nutrition really encompasses both your meals as well as snacking. It's really, really important to make sure that you are getting a well-balanced snack throughout the day, multiple times a day. Again, that depends on you and your sport, but if you are underfueling, you're not eating enough, that is probably the biggest common pitfall that I see among female athletes. Female athletes get these messages that like we should be lighter, we should be thinner and not have as much body fat. And so that then translates to not eating as much. And then that winds up spiraling out of control into having some disordered eating, underfueling, having injuries. Some are acute and some are chronic. And then getting into overtraining syndrome, relative energy deficiency in sport, or also known as RED-S, or even as far as female athlete triad syndrome. So it can really run the gamut. So what we want to do is make sure that we are actually fueling and feeding our bodies, and we can do that by having multiple snacks throughout the day. Hey friend, if this podcast inspired you, encouraged you, or changed you, I would love for you to leave me a review and share it with a girlfriend who will find it helpful or inspiring. That is the best way you can thank me and help me share my knowledge so I can help more people just like you. I'm so thankful that you spent this time with me today, and I'd love to connect with you. Join my Facebook group, Female Sports Nutrition, or send me a DM on Instagram, or hop on over to my website, elitenutritionperformance.com. I'll see you back here next week.